Kia ora tātou, hope you've all had a good day. I get a lot of questions on my TikTok about my MOKO journey, which is here on my face, and how it came to be and a bit about my upbringing and all. I get all those kinds of questions quite a lot, so I thought, so we're going to have a kai together today and talk about my MOKO journey. Bro, I don't Bordeaux bakery. Oi, this looks so yum. I don't know what it is, it's a pastry. I love pastry. It's a wee bit moist. It's kind of soggy. I was thinking it would be a bit more flaky than soggy, but it's still yum. The flavour's good. My dad was in the army, so we kind of travelled quite a lot, but I went to army schools. And for those of you, if anyone's grown up as like we call us army brats, if you've grown up in the army, you know what that's like. And it was very kaupapa Māori. And so I grew up in quite an authentic Māori world, which was great for me because that's all I knew. You know, we didn't speak Māori, we didn't learn a lot of te reo at school and all those sorts of things, but everyone saw the world through a Māori lens and I loved that. It was quite cool for me. But I got chocolate croissant. Yum. Like it's edible. Yeah, so I grew up in that kind of lifestyle and I loved it. It was great. However, when I was 12, we moved to Hawke's Bay and my parents actually ended up separating. And my mum raised us, me and my two brothers, my mum raised us. I went to a school called Taradale High School and it, let me say there were 5% Māori there. But I really wanted to go there because they celebrated like arts and stuff. And that's what I was good at and that's what I loved doing, so I went to Taradale High School. Anyway, I lost all my Māoritanga, I lost it all. I had no reo, I had no understanding of tikanga Māori. I wasn't familiar with surrounding myself with Māori people. I was not connected to my Māoritanga at all. So for the 5 years that I was at school, it was 5 years of distancing myself from who I was as a Māori. Bro, this cheese stick thing, look at it. Yum. So as a quick refresher, early life was very, Māori, kaupapa Māori, everything. Middle of, teenage years, I became very, I'm going to say whitewashed. Finished school, did really well in school, but did nothing with it. Ended up working in hospitality for about 10 years, which was a good experience for me. It was very social. I was able to still have a life, but work my ass off and all that sort of stuff. So that was really cool. Worked in hospitality, but then I got to a point where I was like, I need to do something. I was constantly battling in my head with who I was as a person in this world and where I fitted in, and I honestly would go to sleep at night like so sad because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I fitted into this world. I didn't know what my cause for life was. I didn't understand any of that and I hated it at that time. By this point my dad had my sister in Australia and he'd come back to New Zealand and he started on his reo journey at a institute, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, Dad, like awesome. I'd finished some music studies and my dad had said to me, what are you going to do now, son? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just literally winging my way through life. No idea what I'm up to. No idea what I'm up to, but I'm going to do it anyway. Anyway, he said to me, son, come and do your reo. Come and do level 2 certificate in te reo Māori, and you can learn your whakapapa and your pepeha and karakia and those sorts of things. Come and do that. And I was like, oh, okay, Daddy, I'll come. I'll go get used to my pepeha. And I thought that was the nature of it. Oh, nah. Got there, turned up on my first day, went to a pōhiri for the first time since I was like a kid. Immediately fell in love with te ao Māori. I immediately fell in love with all things te ao Māori, and that was in 2015, and the rest is history. My teacher, who I constantly mihi for being that person that introduced me to te ao Māori at that time, is now one of my best friends, and I have so much to thank for her. I have so much to be grateful for. People always say to me, bro, you need to do more Māori videos. I'm like, bro, Māori love food. We love food. So anyway, I completed my level 2 certificate, which took me up to my level 4 certificate, and I was like, cool, I'll do that too because I'm in love with this. Did my level 4 certificate, finished that, and I was like, oh my god, should I just start my degree? Should I do my degree? Oh no, yeah, I did it. I went and did my degree, and that was 3 years, and I remember at the time thinking, if I can complete a degree, for me personally, I will feel like I've achieved something so great. And it really was like, when I'd finished my degree, it was a Bachelor of Arts in te reo Māori, well, Bachelor of Arts in Māori. It was like the best feeling of my entire life. I was like, I've really achieved something in life, and I've found my place in this world, and it is in te ao Māori. Being immersed in a culture, our whare wānanga where we learnt was on a marae at an institution. So we were really lucky that we got to live and breathe marae life, marae life every day. It became my norm, and it is now my norm, and I'm so grateful for that. Finished my degree, and I was lucky enough to actually get a job at the place where I was working, but I just worked in administration, which was so cool because I got to see how the cogs worked of the work, of the institute, and that was great. But while I was doing that, I was like, I need to keep getting better at my reo. So I enrolled into my honours in Te Reo Māori in the same place. So I was working and studying in the same place, and it was great. Once I finished my honours, I was like, cool, I can teach Te Reo Māori now. And so I became a teacher and started tutoring where I learned. And so I was then I felt like it was like a bit of a circle of life situation. I was now able to teach people and take them through the same experiences that I had been through, and take them through the same process of decolonization. And it was the best feeling for me in the world. After that, I was like, I'm not done. I love research. I really love research. It's something I'm naturally very inquisitive. I naturally am into like asking questions and finding out more information about things that I already know. So I was like, I need to do some research. But I was like, oh, why not enroll into my master's? So I enrolled into my master's, and now it wasn't a master's of Te Reo Māori. It was called a master's of professional practice, which is where you put a critical lens on the work that you already do and see how you can become the best person you can be at what you do. And so a master of professional practice is what I ended up completing, and I just finished that in November last year, which is 2 months after I got my mata ora. So that's how we segue into this now. I got my mata ora in August last year, 16th, one day I think was before that lockdown. I got it not because I felt like I deserved it. I got it not because I felt like I had worked hard for it. I got it because I came to a place in my life where I knew that I was deserving of this because I was born a tāne Māori. That's why I got my mata ora. Having a reo, having knowledge of your tikanga, having knowledge of whakapapa, having knowledge of karakia, all of those things, they are, in my personal opinion, beneficial to me, because when people come up to me, see this on my face and expect that I know that, I do, and that's great for me, but it's still not the rule, you know. And a lot of people are still learning to understand that, and that's a part of the decolonization process, is understanding that it is a birthright. It is a birthright. But there's been some really interesting kōrero about whether, at what point do you feel like you either deserve mata ora or moko kauai. And to me, I just think we can't change how other people are going to perceive us. We can't change what other people expect of us. We can try, but those people, ignorance exists, you know, miseducation exists, people who don't understand, that all exists. And sometimes people are going to assume that you've got a reo, or that you have knowledge of tikanga, or that you're significant in your region or within your family or whatever. People are going to assume that. I have no control over that, so it's how I decide to respond to it, and how I decide to, and what steps I decide to take to make sure that my mana is upheld in whatever way that is. You know, say for example, you're a tangata Māori with a moko kauai or a mata ora, and you don't have a reo. If you're prepared for those kinds of conversations, and you're prepared to, I guess, understand why you've got it, and not necessarily explain that to them, but explain that to yourself, man, beautiful. I think that's great. Yeah, I just like to think you can't help how other people perceive you, so it's how you respond to them, and that's what matters in that situation. So yeah, it was good for me. I personally wanted to have knowledge of my reo whakapapa tikanga before I got my mata ora, because it was, for me, that was my personal decision. But that's not to say that that is how it is always going to be. And each whānau, you know, each whānau, each iwi hapu, they, you know, people have different perspectives and ture and tikanga on it. It's a conversation you can also have with your family. Like the day I decided I was going to get it, I rang my dad and I was like, Dad. He was all for it because he was so excited for me to do this. Gonna have a wee dessert quickly. I don't know what they are. They like caramel chocolate biscuits. Yum! Wow! The next big question which I'll answer, which I get all the time, is what does your moko represent? Now, if you take into consideration the story I just told, my moko is a representation of that journey. My moko is a representation of indigenizing my mind, decolonizing my mind, going from that transition into being lost in te ao Pākehā and finding my place in te ao Māori, finding purpose, finding a presence that matters, finding love within myself. The kaupapa of my moko is that. It's my transitional period into my place in te ao Māori, and how much that means to me, because in all honesty, if I didn't find te ao Māori, I don't know if I would be here. I found happiness, I found purpose, I found love when I found te ao Māori, and so this is my acknowledgement, or my mihi to te ao Māori, is for me to express this. Moko is also a representation of whakapapa or genealogy heritage, as we all know. It's a representation of where you're positioned in your whānau, tuakana teina status. These are amazing. And for me, it's also a representation of my connection to my reo, to my tikanga, to the land, to the atua. It's a connection to all things Māori for me, because now when I present myself in public, I present myself as outwardly Māori, and it's not like I did it to say, hey, I'm Māori. I did it because it's a pride thing. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud to be tāne Māori. Now for me, when I step into public and represent myself outwardly as a Māori, I'm really cautious of how I act, how I behave, how I speak to people, which is something I never used to be, it's a good thing that me finding a place within my Māoritanga has made me a bit more mature in my behaviour, because I'm choosing to behave in a better manner when I'm in public because I'm representing Māori. And the reason for that is because if I was to go into public and get into a scrap or open my mouth or whatever it's going to be, people don't go, oh, it was that guy that got into a scrap, it was a Māori guy with a mataora. That's what would be reported if, say, it was to be reported, on social media. That's how people would perceive it. That's what they see. They go, oh, and I don't want to be a part of that. And so now I make a conscious effort to choose my words, choose my behaviours when I go out into public, because I want to represent Māori as amazing people, because we are. Those are my whakaaro around my moko. I get a lot of questions still on my TikTok videos, especially about how that works, about what it means for me. So I wanted to have a bit of a kai with you. Hope you've all had an amazing weekend. I hope you all have an amazing week next week. For those of you in school holidays soon, which is exciting. Kia pai te toenga o te pō. Have a good rest of your night, and I'll see you next week.